people say those with sickle cell anemia do not suffer from malaria. Please, this is very wrong. Malaria is one of the things that can easily trigger a crisis and cause death. Yes, there is a relationship between reduced tendencies for malaria and sickle cell traits, as those with AS. I would explain that as we go further. But please, there is no immunity for malaria for those with sickle cell anemia. I think questions are dropping in, so I'm just going to pause here, and then we can both answer the questions, or any other person can answer the questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for that short presentation. I think we already have some questions in the chat, actually. But before we get into the questions in the chat, I'm just going to ask some few questions that I have myself. Okay, so, as Dr. Judith explained, sickle cell is when, the shape of the red blood cell is sickle, and then these people, they have low oxygen delivery to certain cells in their body and all of that. So I just want to ask that, what about people that are not SS per se, but are AS? They also have about 50% of these sickled red blood cells. Do they ever experience any of these symptoms? Say, for instance, there are certain instances where they can also have some of the symptoms that we see with people with sickle cell. Can they ever experience crises or anything like this? That's just my own personal question before we move to the questions in the chat. So, thank you. Dr. Judith.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I would say that that's not, I've heard of someone that had that experienced symptoms of, that was AS, that experienced symptoms of the sickle cell anemia, but largely they don't. That case, was just a one-time thing. And I think it was when one of my teachers was trying to just point out that, oh, this may be the case, but they don't. They usually do not experience symptoms. What being AS just means that you have the traits, and then you can pass it down to the next generation, but that they would now start having crisis and all of that. No, but I've heard of one case, but I don't think I have read any paper that has backed that up yet.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Judith, for that answer. So I'll just let me just read out some of the questions we have in the chat. So someone is asking, thank you very much, Ma. I would like to ask, are there resources or support networks available for individuals with sickle cell disease and their families to help navigate the challenges associated with their condition? So I would just like to throw that to Dr. Victor. I know their organization is doing a lot of great work for sickle cell warriors. So please, Dr. Victor, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yes, there are non-governmental organizations that spearhead this. Sickle Cell Aid Foundation is one of them, that's SCAF. There's so many others. Sickle Cell Foundation here in Lagos, SCF, which is different from SCAF, is another, but quite a number of them. So yes, they have different missions and visions. At SCAF, we have a beneficiary program where we register indigent individuals, so people that are poor and cannot, take care of themselves financially and otherwise. So yes, there are. You can reach out to SCAF, and then SCAF would give you more information. If it's something that they can do, they will definitely take it up.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. So the next question here is, what are some of the latest advancements in treatment and care for sickle cell disease, and how have they improved the quality of life for individuals with the condition? So Dr. Judith, can you please help us with that?
Okay, thank you for that question. When you talk about advancement, I think now people are even shifting from trying to treat to prevention. So there are a couple that I mentioned in my presentation, particularly with the prenatal diagnosis and screening, and also assisted reproductive techniques. So instead of trying to treat the child, you're trying to prevent the child from having sickle cell anemia. Then, but in terms of treating, I would say this is like the latest, but it's been around for a while. There's the bone marrow transplant, and we've experienced some success with that. Although I feel like studies are still being carried out to see what the long-term effects are, but there are people, and then there's an age limit for that. But I think research is just still being done to see how effective this is. There is a drug that people call the wonder drug, that's shown to be very potent. That's the hydroxyurea. There's been a lot of success with that too. But in all of this, you want to be speaking to a specialist and hematologist to actually put you through on what option will be best for you. It's never advisable to go online and then figure out stuff on your own. You may find things that have worked for other people, but you need to speak to someone who would enlighten you on what would work for you and put your situation in context and say, oh, I think this would be the best option. But yeah, there are a lot of options out there, to be honest. Technology is making a lot of waves.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned the bone marrow transplants. Where is that available? We know someone that is living with sickle cell anemia, and we think this is something that maybe might benefit them. Is there any hospital around in Nigeria where you think this can get done, where they can benefit from something like this?
Okay, about an hospital in Nigeria, I personally have not looked into that, but I would like to ask Dr. Oyoyo, are you aware of any facility in Nigeria that can offer bone marrow transplant?
Okay, so it's a question that is a bit tricky to answer, because today some of them are up and functioning, and then tomorrow there's an issue and they're down. So there were some cases that were done at the National Hospital Abuja, and then also some cases that were done in Benin. I think it was an arm of UBTH. But as of today, I can't categorically tell you that you can get that service then. So what I'm going to do is just do a follow-up, because as the last time I asked, it was suspended. They had some issues. But I'm going to do a follow-up and see if it's back up. I know most of the cases in recent times I've had to go abroad to get it done.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Victor, for that answer. So I'm just going to read out some questions from our website. There are some questions there on the website that I'd like to read out. Can women with sickle cell disease get pregnant and deliver safely? Okay, Dr. Judith.
Yes, they can. I've seen a couple, although a pregnancy in someone with sickle cell anemia is considered high risk for obvious reasons. Or with adequate monitoring, follow-up, checkups, and everything, they have children. Yeah, they do.
Okay, so is there any necessary step that they would need to take, before being able to probably safely carry to them and give birth, and
You definitely want to be speaking to an obstetrician. But yes, there are a lot of measures that we put in place. First, you want to minimize crisis in these women. You want to know what's their steady state PCV, and also keep an eye for anemia in pregnancy. For this woman, you don't want her to come down with malaria. You also want to serially monitor. You want to do serial ultrasounds to monitor the growth and development of the child, ensure that everything is going on well, and then come up with a birth plan that actually suits this woman. So you want to know what the options would be, planning towards a vaginal birth or planning towards a cesarean and all of that. Ensure she has the right nutrition. This kind of woman you want to place on Hematinics as much as possible and all of that. But like I said, when you speak to a professional, like we have obstetrics obstetrics and gynecology. So when you speak to an obstetrician, they would put you through on what to do and all of that. But this is a plan that has to be individualized to suit this woman, put her in context. What are the resources available to this woman? What can be done and all of that. So yeah, it's something that can definitely be looked into.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned hematinics now, and that was why I just remembered that, I've seen cases where for people with sickle cell, I usually hear they would say, don't give them blood tonics that have iron, like Astifa and the likes. They might just give them Astimine rather. Is there any specific reason for this? Why should people with sickle cell avoid iron? Your mic is mute.
There is a particular reason for the iron, but I don't seem to recall right now. But let me get back to you on that question.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Let me just.
Okay. So I could just jump in for that. So sickle cell anemia is characterized, as we all know, by breakdown of red blood cells. So it takes a shorter time for the red blood cells in individuals with sickle cell, than the normal red blood cells. And when the breakdown happens, iron is released because the component in hemoglobin. So if you give them iron, you would cause iron overload. So that's why, they opt out of that.
Oh, right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Victor, for that. Okay, so we'll just try to quickly go over the rest of the questions here. There's another question here that does sickle cell anemia cause mental retardation? Actually, I remember when I was in secondary school, I know they used to there were some people that had sickle cell that used to be stigmatized for this, and it was just assumed that they probably cannot understand quickly and all of that. But is there any medical basis to this? Does sickle cell anemia actually cause any form of mental retardation? Your mic is mute, Dr. B.
Okay, so I should assume that the question is coming to me because
Yeah.
I will do that from now on.
Okay.
That's not true. I think it's a myth that Dr. Oyoyo just talked about. That's not true. There's nothing like them having mental retardation. In fact, some of the brightest children I've come in contact with actually have sickle cell anemia. They're so smart. When you interact with them in the clinic, you're like, oh my God, this child is so bright. So unless if there is a case of maybe a complication from the sickle cell anemia, like a stroke or something, which may affect functioning to an extent, they are not mentally, there's nothing like cognitive impairment in them. That's not true at all. That's just a myth.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, there's another question. Can people with sickle cell donate blood? Can people with sickle cell donate blood?
No, it's not
No,
advised.
it's not advisable.
No, it's not advised at all.
Okay, Dr. Victor, I think you want to add more to that.
Yeah, so basically what she said, no, because it's anemia, they have low blood levels. So taking blood from them will be causing more harm than any sort of good. So no. What they need is blood, so you can't take blood from them.
Okay. So generally I just want to ask, what are the types of food, the food types, the food groups, the food classes that you can suggest in terms of like nutrition for people with sickle cell? Is there anything particularly they should avoid, or is there like a particular class of food or food group that you think they should focus more on eating and then try to work towards getting more of?
So when it comes to nutrition, yeah, there's really no hard and fast rule about it, because the most important thing is rehydration, and we always let me say hydration, because let me use the word rehydration. So it's hydration. So we're always hammering on make sure you take fluids, make sure you take fluids. So lots of water, and of course a healthy, balanced diet. So we're not pulling anything out of their meals. We're saying just keep it healthy and keep it balanced. So have your veggies, have your proteins, have your carbohydrates, lots of water, basically that. But there are certain dietitians that will, just be able to prepare food items or food classes for people with sickle cell. But truth of the matter is there's no hard and fast rule. Just keep the diet healthy.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Judith, do you also want to add to that?
Yes, like Dr. Oyoyo already mentioned, you want to make sure that their diet is balanced. Want to make sure they're getting more of micronutrients, vitamins. You want to they should take fruits and vegetables as much as possible, and then stay hydrated, because dehydration itself can lead to a crisis. So these are things you want to look out for. Particularly just really balance the carbohydrates, the proteins, and then the fat and oil, and they'll be fine.
Okay, so just to follow up to what you just discussed now, I would just like to ask that, can people with sickle cell anemia, can they do as much physical labor as people that do not have sickle cell anemia? Because I've seen cases of people that actually have sickle cell anemia, but they work as drivers, they do things that you would think that's how do they have the energy to do something like this? And they are able to carry out that. Is there any detrimental effect to that? Are they advised to even do very strenuous physical labor to work as probably assistants or maids or people that carry heavy things? Is it advisable for them to actually get into that line of work, or is there nothing wrong with doing as much work?
So we advise limited physical activity. You can do the regular physical activities. You can go to work. You can be a personal assistant. We want to say strenuous activities. For example, we're talking about physical activities as bricklaying, lifting heavy things, so anything that will be strained on, that will exert too much stress on them, we advise against. Yeah. But truth of the matter is, there are people with sickle cell anemia that started off early with exercises, and when you see them now, you see them do certain exercises, and you'll be like, oh, yeah. So it's something that they started off early. For example, it's like you've seen certain pregnant women still go to the gym. It's because pre-pregnancy they're used to it. The system is used to it. So don't, even as you're talking about living a healthy life to someone that has sickle cell, don't exact them too much. There are certain exercises that are tailored for those with sickle cell. I think during the COVID era, I was doing this whole home workout thing, and I had to create one for those with sickle cell, because they're not advised to do as much as someone that doesn't have sickle cell, because that can trigger a crisis.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, sir. There's actually a question for you, particularly here in the chat. Says, Dr. Oyoyo, are there any concerns about stigmatization of sickle cell warriors or people with sickle cell traits? And how does your public awareness messaging combat or prevent that?
Right, major concerns. It's one of the major challenges we have, and of course, those that living with sickle cell have. Stigmatization from at work, stigmatization in school. Funny enough, stigmatization in medical facilities. So the truth of the matter is, it's awareness, creating awareness, and also creating laws. This is how to do with the government now, creating laws to ensure that there's warriors are not stigmatized, because we have cases where people are, sacked from their work because of the fact that they have sickle cell, and that should not be so. So there is stigmatization, and the much we can do is educate people, educate you. You go on to educate. It's a networking thing. So as we pass the information to you, you pass the information to others, make them understand that, oh, sickle cell cannot be caught by you just hugging the person or sitting close to the person, so make them feel warm, can become friends with them. If you are AA and you've fallen in love with someone that's SS and it's your decision, you can marry them, and if they are your colleagues, do not look down on them. If they are your classmates, do not look down on them. Lend a helping hand where possible. And if you have people in government authorities talking about people living in sickle cell, then let's see how much can be done in terms of creating laws that will protect them. So that's the much we're doing. I know we Sickle Cell Aid Foundation SCAF spearheaded one of the needs for a law for a bill to be passed, and that was as regards healthcare for them, because the truth of the matter is, I know about sickle cell. Dr. Judy knows about sickle cell. Truth of the matter is, there are certain doctors that all they know about is what they were taught in school. They probably have not had one-on-one experiences, and you see someone that comes in pain and like, I beg you, give me paracetamol. It's just acting up. And we've seen it in life scenarios, It's only you kind of get pain, and they just give paracetamol, and then that's the end of it. So, no. And we know that, yes, there is addiction to pentazocine, which is a painkiller for those that do not know, amongst sickle cell warriors. But then again, you need to be able to have an understanding to know that this person needs this particular medication. So yes, so there's education also in the medical facilities, the healthcare facilities. So that's the much we're doing, and we'll just keep at it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. There's a question actually on the website that says, are there any diseases that people with sickle cell anemia are more susceptible to? Is there anything that they are very prone to, that they should watch out for, or in terms of diseases?
I'll let Dr. Judy talk about that, because she mentioned it in secondary prevention too.
Okay.
Oh, yes, there are actually. We talked about the antibiotic prophylaxis against pneumococcal infections and meningococcal infections also. And the reason for this is because with time, people with sickle cell, after a while, they may have something that is called the autosplenectomy. That means the spleen becomes non-functional. And the spleen is the part of the body that helps with dealing with some encapsulated organisms. So if the person's spleen is non-functional, then they are more prone to this illness. So in people who have undergone that autosplenectomy, then you have to give some vaccine against these infections, and also give some antibiotics, as the case may be. Or like I said, this is individualized. It's not for like everybody. And also because of how you also want to be on the lookout to. Dr. Yoyo talked about how they're prone to malaria and all of that. So you also want to be on the lookout for that. And generally for vaccine preventable illnesses, you don't want them coming down with these illnesses. So you also want to vaccinate them against these infections.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Based on what Dr. Victor mentioned the other time about having these patients in medical facilities, and some people just give them paracetamol and the likes. So that just reminded me of the case of addiction with people with sickle cell anemia. In cases where these people experience a lot of pain, they are placed on medications that have the tendency to be addicted to, like we have some people that just keep on buying medications like pentazocine. And how can this be worked towards such that their pain is being managed, but then they are not living with addiction, and that is not affecting another area of their life where they are totally dependent on pain medications? Is it possible to manage them in such a way that these people are not living in chronic pain, these people are living pain-free, but then they don't suffer this effect that I usually see with people with sickle cell, whereby they are now dependent on these pain medications? So Dr. Victor.
So that management is another specialty on its own. What we were doing with Sickle Cell Aid Foundation for those that were addicted to pentazocine was direct them to another NGO that deals with addiction, because it's treated the same way as every other addiction. It is it's a delicate issue. How do you now create a balance to treating this person with this medication that he's already addicted to? Now, there are other options for pain relievers, but then again, like I said, it's a specialist issue. So we usually do refer them to facilities that cater for individuals that are addicted to this. But of course, when the patient is brought into the facility, into your hospital, or into any hospital where they're in pain, you definitely would have to administer something. And like I tell people, management of pain is a stepwise thing. So not necessary that when the patient comes to go to the top of the ceiling to take the heaviest one, if I may use that term. You start from here and then you gradually increase to see, how the patient responds to it. But if it's a patient that is addicted, you have to call in specialists, which are not. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Permit me to say something on that. So I think this is where in addition to what Dr. Oyoyo said, this is where the psychological support comes in. If we're waiting till people get addicted before providing help, we may be doing that may be at the tail end. How about in their care, you follow them up with adequate psychological support? Let them see a mental health professional. There are different ways with dealing with pain. Like Dr. Oyo said, it's a stepwise fashion. In fact, there are non-pharmaceutical methods of dealing with pain. So can we try this? So even for their daily life with pain that they'll have on their day-to-day activities, can you try music therapy? Can you try relaxation techniques? Will all of this work? And then usually most psychologists will put you through exercises, deep breathing exercises, and things that would help you manage this pain. So but if there is no support from the get-go, then people just think that the only option may be to just take penta or stuff like that. So adequate psychological support for the patient, for their caregivers, cannot be overemphasized. You have to make sure that they are speaking to a mental health professional, be it a psychiatrist or a psychologist, someone that would help them deal with the challenges of their everyday life.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll just ask, our time is almost up. I'll ask a question that we have here. Thank you, sir. Could you provide some practical strategies and recommendations for preventing infections and managing the heightened susceptibility to infections in people with sickle cell disease?
Dr. Judith already answered that.
Okay.
Yeah. I already did, where I talked about the antibiotic prophylaxis, the vaccines that they have to take, also the normal malaria prevention. So you want to sleep with insecticide-treated net. You want to make sure your surroundings are free from stagnant water and things like that. So these are things. You want to eat a well-balanced diet, take fruits and vegetables and all of that. So yeah, that's what you have to put in place. If you're still not clear, you can speak to a professional, someone that would highlight these steps for you.
All right, thank you so much. But before we round up, I would just like to ask a question that I know many people would be interested to know about, which is, even though we are talking about sickle cell anemia, And we know we've always been told, oh, if you are AS, you cannot marry someone that is AS. And I know there are lots of advancements in the medical world, like you talked about PVD, the screening before, after IVF, you can screen to be sure the embryo is not SS and all of that. So can you just enlighten us more on this? If there are people that are actually AS and they are together, is this still the same advice as before, that everybody knows that, okay, if you are AS, just make sure you avoid someone that is AS? Are there any practical steps they can take to ensure that they can actually get married and have kids, but they can have kids that are not living with sickle cell disease? So just walk us through the procedure for that, how that can be achieved even in Nigeria, how that can actually be done here in Nigeria.
Okay, while this is the case, I would like to say that fertility treatment is expensive. You have to bear that in mind. So it will be, you're definitely not going through the natural route. So it's going to be a lot more expensive. Even IVF, then doing genetic testing on the embryos, and then it's a very long procedure. So my advice would be individualize your situation. Where am I at? Can I do this? Is it an option for me? While maybe in other climes, it may not be so expensive for them, or they can afford it, but can you afford it? And while some people just really, like Dr. Yoyo said, couples may not even have any child that comes down with sickle cell anemia, but is it a chance you're willing to take? My question to you is, am I willing to take that chance? So should we have a child that has sickle cell anemia? Are we ready? Are we going to be able to deal with this and all of that? Are we going to be able to provide the care that this child needs? What I would say is, make sure you're making an informed decision. Yeah, you can do fertility treatments, but can you afford to do that? Or if you want to take your chance and say, oh no, I'm just going to use my faith on this and all of that. Should you have a child, can you deal with the care of that child and all of that? So that's just, you can do IVF, you can even do prenatal diagnosis. People are doing it. But you have to ask yourself, is it for me? The option is there, but is it for me? So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your response, Dr. Judith. Dr. Victor, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes. So there's been a shift in the advice. So in the past, it used to be, remember that those adverts that will say AS, no. That was what it was in the past, but because of technological advancements and innovations, there's been a shift. So what we go for now is one word, counseling, another word, education. She just talked about it. These intending couples have to be educated. They have to understand what they are going into. Give them all the options. Tell them that if you decide to go this way, these are the possibilities. These are the chances. Are you willing to take the chance? All right. Are you willing to go through this? Are you willing to spend this much? Which, mind you, might not give you a positive outcome at the end of the day. Do you get it? So all these options have to be made available to them. They also have to understand that there is the option of not having a child. There is the option of surrogacy. There is the option of adoption. So all these things have to be laid down, and then these intending adults will make their decision based on this. So we no more say AS, no. AS and AS, no, we no more say that. Rather, we just counsel, educate.
All right. Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I'm sure everybody here has learned something today. Okay, that's from Dr. Judith. Everybody here has learned something. Myself, I'm sure even our hosts themselves have learned from some of our questions here. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to say a big thank you to Sickle Cell Aid Foundation for collaborating with us to do this. I mean, making it possible for people out here to learn about this. I'm sure Monday, which is World Sickle Cell Day, everybody here has learned something that can help to improve the life of someone around them that is living with sickle cell anemia. So thank you so much to everyone that asked the question. thank you so much to our guests that were able to provide answers to all of the questions that we asked here. So if you are still with us, if you joined late, you can always go back to our website and rewatch what we just discussed here. You can still leave your questions there. We'll be ready to, provide answers to them and just leave them underneath your questions on our website. Thank you, everyone. We have overshot our time, but I'm sure we gained a lot during the process. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Victor, for joining us here today. It was really nice having you here with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Judith.
Thank you
really
for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so have a very nice weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.